welcome back to Keep Going Podcast, Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today we have a special guest. This is James. James, you want to do a brief intro on yourself?
Yeah, happy to be here, Vin. Really appreciate it. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is James Ambrose, originally from Central Jersey, right now living in Hoboken, New Jersey. Been living a little bit of a hybrid lifestyle for the past 2 years, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit. But just besides that, love spending time with family, love giving back a little bit too, and I'm one of those guys who really just love working in general, whether that's working on myself or working kind of professionally. I've been in the finance field for quite a while, working at a few different banks and startups and so on. And yeah, just really happy to be here, Finn. Really, thanks a lot.
No, of course. And I think a good place to start would be you sent me a speech probably a couple weeks ago now.
Yeah.
I would love to start right there if you kind of want to tell people what the whole premise of it was about, and then
Yep.
obviously like, the community as a whole.
Yeah. So it kind of going to the piece about giving back, and this might be a recurring theme throughout a lot of this call here, is my fraternity. I was part of Theta Delta Chi when I was in college and am a proud active brother of the organization today. Now I sit on the international board of the organization. I'm also president of my local alumni association, and so related to all those things, overseeing a full-time staff, which is really driving the day-to-day strategy and operations of the fraternity internationally, and then also making sure that undergraduates all over the country, all over Canada, have resources to put on workshops for leadership development, to have workshops around things like alcohol abuse training, and like resume workshops and just team builders, and enable young men throughout the country to have resources that, guys like us now in our kind of later 20s are really happy to be a part of, and just be able to give that kind of leadership and mentorship aspect to kids that are kind of going through some tough, confusing times in college, trying a whole bunch of new things and a lot of stimulating environments there. And so the speech that I sent you, I was, humbled enough to be asked to be one of the keynote speakers at our annual convention. And what spoke about during that speech is probably a lot of what we'll talk about today, but my kind of, hero's journey, as my friend Brian likes to call it, where, I haven't always been this guy who is, maybe I've always been pretty positive, but, I haven't always been this guy who is kind of the shining light of hope, who is always connecting with people, who's always, working out, who always is reading, who's living this life committed to improvement every single day. And, speaking on a lot of the hard times that I've had, whether it's been in relationships or potentially struggling with alcohol, or, going through lots of ups and downs in career kind of life cycles, and dealing with things like working at a company that went bankrupt, and what that is like in your mid 20s, and how do you deal with all those things, and how do you navigate a career path in a, constantly changing environment. And was really happy to kind of share my story on how I overcame all of those struggles and was able to kind of, you know, come out the other side, and as this person that is happy to be speaking with you today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, if you kind of want to hit on it, like what is it for you that is that driving factor?
Yeah, what is it for me that is that driving factor? I think I think there's a few pieces to that. And I think one is, finding love within yourself is the first piece. And I think everyone goes through different ups and downs of how much they love themselves and how they show themselves, how much they love and appreciate themselves. And the way that I'm able to love myself every single day is by waking up early, by watching the sun rise, by having really meaningful conversations with people that, maybe I don't know them that well, but it's an olive branch extending to those people where, I'm able to talk deeply about my values and what I believe in, and hear back about what they believe in as well. And so those are all the ways that I kind of, show love and appreciation for myself. And then related to a lot of the points about giving back that we said before, that's kind of, why I do it all in the first place, where now I have all these people kind of reaching out to me and saying, wow, like I didn't realize you kind of stopped drinking 2 years ago. It's like, wow, I didn't realize that you've become this marathon runner, that you've, had all these ups and downs at these crazy startups, that you've been able to come out of it on the other side. You know, it, it really empowers me a lot to, when I see these people reaching out to me, when I see the people that I'm able to kind of inspire or just, talk to and learn about. And, it's kind of an appreciation for self-love, but also the mission to kind of give back and supply all that, overflowing love, and then give that to other people as well.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And you hit on a point there too, which I think is so crucial, is just like experience, right? And like
Yeah.
doing the thing. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people do get stuck in just the planning phase. And going through the thing and going through adversity within whatever it is really
Mhm.
what shapes you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, experiences and just doing the thing are what we're really here for. And I know me and you message back and forth a lot, just experiencing things, get out there. You're a little scared to go to that run club with people you don't know. Just do it. And you might struggle with the run, you might struggle holding conversations, but by the end of it, you're going to say, "Wow, I'm really glad I did that thing. Wow, I'm really glad I had that conversation." I think about some of the best days I've had in the past 2 years. And some of the best days I've had in the past 2 years are honestly, transparently, spent with you and just meeting a whole bunch of new people that you've never met before. And you're doing all these crazy things together and just doing all these things that, it sound crazy for you to think about. Wow, I couldn't imagine myself doing those things so many years ago, and seeing that personal transformation, that's kind of really what it's all about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then another piece of that, which you touched on, was like community. And like I think
Yeah.
it's so cool, like, and it just like how the community, like you said, like lending an olive branch just like
Yeah.
trickles into so many different areas. Like you going to Rebel Corps is like I met
Yeah.
Bill at a race that a friend met Bill at a race, and that's how I even met Bill, who owns Rebel Corps. And like it's things like that. Like when I see those little connections personally, and like just knowing that like somehow, some way, like these two people got connected is just like the coolest thing to see.
Yeah, and you said community there, and like, well, that's what I love about what you've done. Where I met Joey Draws through like NJ Run Club, and all of a sudden I've gone to his gym probably like 10 to 15 times over the course of the last like year and a half for great workouts, or just to go in the morning, or do the cold plunge there, or go for a Saturday run, like with meeting Bill and going to Rebel Core for Pilates. I've never done Pilates before, but I think I went there twice on my own just because I had a great time. And then I brought my mom there too, getting my mom involved in some of this community stuff too, and being able to do that stuff with community, and but also bringing in family, and then also kind of tying that into the fraternity aspect of everything that I've done, which the core values of that organization and kind of myself personally is like improvement and never ending improvement, whether it's reading a book or eating better or practicing meditation a little bit. It's all aspects of the same community where you can find people to gel together, and you're the culmination of the people that you surround yourself with. And I firmly believe that over the past kind of 2 years, I've just completely leveled up the people that I surround myself with. And maybe leveling up myself has just been a little bit of a byproduct of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And something you touched on earlier that I definitely want to dive back into is kind of like
Mm.
sobriety and like your
Yeah.
personal I guess your personal journey with alcohol,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. There's a quote that you said that I'll copy back to you. And it was, I run miles the same way I drink alcohol. And that hit me so much. And I've thought about like that quote a lot. And I feel like, specifically men kind of our age struggle a lot with a keyword that's balance. And, from a hierarchical structure of society, it's like we're always trying to be the best at something, whether we're the best runner, we're the best cook, we're the best at work. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes out as trying to be like the best drinker, being the best, being the life of the party, being the guy who is always going to stay out till 2, 3 in the morning, who's going to be the last guy at the happy hour for work, who's going to be the first guy to start drinking on a like a Sunday football tailgate, who's always going to be the guy who's going to be able to go the hardest, the fastest, the longest for drinking. And my sobriety journey started with, doing the 75 hard challenge with, trying not to drink. And then I realized that, that was pretty much my first experience with sobriety, but also kind of a shift in the values where, going out to drink to 2 a.m. wasn't the important thing. The important thing was, waking up in the morning and getting after the day and just being prepared for the work day and being productive on the weekends. And that was really my first experience with it. And that, after that 75 days, I didn't really feel the need to drink anymore. And, now I don't feel the need to drink at all because all these great experiences, going to run clubs, waking up super early and going to the gym, or just having a really productive day, alcohol is unfortunately a thing that gets in the way of a lot of that. I don't want to say alcohol is completely bad. It makes a lot of, occasions a little bit better. But, some going back to that piece about balance, is it easier for us to go 0 or 100 sometimes? And, admittedly for me, I think that might be something that, it's more of 0 for me. And that's just been something I've been able to deal with right now. I've tried to drink on a few occasions. Me and my friends had a trip to Austin where I had a few beers with my friends and I had a really good time. And then I had my buddy's bachelor party where I had a few beers there as well. Kind of outside those two experiences in the past 2 years, haven't really drank at all. And I feel like just I'm able to have such amazing conversations and such amazing times with people when I'm sober. And on the bachelor party, the most fun I had was, the first night or 2 nights when I didn't drink, waking up the next morning and, running around and experiencing the where we were around Lake George and just getting to take in the energy and the environment, and then getting back, everyone's still asleep, and kind of be ready to start the day and go play mini golf or go play disc golf and do all the things we were doing. Like those were some of my fun days. The fun days weren't when I was out late drinking and then having a hangover waking up. And so that's kind of where, everything is right now. I think it's been a shift of values around, what I really call fun and what I really call a great experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just hearing you say that, like I thought of something as far as like if people, and it's not easy, but if people could tap more into like what they do, like thinking about what they do, how it actually makes them feel in a manner of drinking, because like I'm like you. I mean, I'm like an old man. I'm in bed by like 9 o'clock, even on Friday
Yeah.
nights, Saturday nights. Like it's just how it goes. And I'm up at, 3, 4, 5 a.m. And but I know how that makes me feel, and I know the clarity I get from that. And same with
Mhm.
food. Like there's foods that of course I love to enjoy myself with desserts. I have a big sweet tooth, but it's a time and a place kind of thing for me just because I know how it makes me feel. Um, and yeah, I think if people could tap into that, and I think the other aspect too, which you mentioned, like young men wanting to like be the best at everything, and especially like drinking, it's like one of those things where like it doesn't take any real talent. It's just like don't black
Yeah.
out, don't throw up, don't make an ass of yourself, and like you can, yeah, you could probably get down as much alcohol as possible. And with that, it really comes to like the isolation aspect. I think like life becomes like this like two-ended funnel really, where like you're in the party phase, so it's so big, you have such a wide net of people and community that maybe your people may not be your people, you may be just like bonding over the aspect of drinking. And then when you choose not to, you go into this narrow like just this almost like a tube of like isolation, and you got to kind of have to like find yourself and find your purpose, find your core values. And then when you feel comfortable enough and secure in yourself, and the self-love piece is huge, you could cast back out, and now this is where you reach a community like the NJ Run Club, and aspects like that.
Yeah. And I think what's a really cool piece now is that I feel like sobriety has kind of been growing, especially in the United States a little bit more. It's like I've been kind of sober for 2 years. I know you've been sober for a while, but now even just like communicating with other people. But maybe it also is a little bit of a like a bias towards the people that you surround yourself with. So I don't know if more people are being sober or I'm just surrounding myself with more people that are sober. Like
Yeah,
and I definitely hear both sides of the argument, but I feel like at least people being a little bit more health conscious about a lot of decisions, whether that's food, diet, or kind of drinking, it's all in the right direction, and makes people a little bit more open minded to a lot more different experiences. Where maybe a few years ago, everyone was just the only thing they could do was go out to drink on a late night on a Friday, but now we're able to sit here and say, oh, let's go out for an early dinner. Let's go to bed a little early, and then let's wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. and have an amazing morning the next day. So I feel like, maybe there's two sides to that, but I'm not sure which one's right.
yeah. No, it's true. And I say it all the time in drinking, like it's just I never liked the taste of any of it. I did it to literally get fucked up. And which obviously isn't a great thing. And the other end of it is if I did enjoy the taste and my stuff comes so much down to performance, like you said, like I want to perform on a Saturday morning, even if it's just a fun run with my friends. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to feel like shit doing it. That's why I choose not to drink. And no knock to anybody that has good balance with it. Like you said, like young men, like I struggle with balance with running.
Mhm.
It's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, that piece about like young men, which is why like as part of that speech, I kind of spoke about drinking to all the guys who are in the fraternity to say, hey, you're part of this fraternity. I know you know you're in college, but there's things that are a lot more important than that. And there's things that, you know, around community service and giving back and like excelling in your classes and all these things that really set a groundwork for, you know, being successful in your early career and kind of mid-career. And so just understanding that there's a lot more options that exist out there. And it's not necessarily just that, oh, everyone's drinking, so I need to drink. Um, just understanding that there are other possibilities that, you know, all these guys could take advantage of.
Absolutely. And I know that you must be a leader, obviously, within your fraternity. And I'm curious, like kind of who's been a big influence for you?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think maybe there's a few different answers to that for multiple reasons. But I think first off is my dad. Bar none, my dad is my best friend and always will be. I think he's probably the person who made me a morning person, whether he knows it or not. My dad's always been in finance. It's a core reason why I'm super interested in the area. I remember like being on like the Disney cruise and we were 8 and we were talking about like Apple stock. And he was like, "Oh, should I buy Apple stock? It presents an ownership and whatever." And so just having really cool conversations about that at such a young age. But my dad is someone who is so beloved by everyone who he meets. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have a dad who's been fairly successful in the finance business world. And I use a lot of kind of his connections as I try to connect and form my own network. Every single person I talk to, he's like, wow, your dad's the nicest guy. He's so funny. He's so amazing. He works so hard. And I sit there and I laugh a little bit. I'm like, what? The guy who can't turn on the TV, who can't turn on the AC in the car, that guy. And but my everyone who's ever met my dad always says absolutely amazing things about him. I know how hard he works for our family, and a lot of what he has and a lot of his drivers is a lot of what I want personally out of my life. And you know, he probably the greatest memory I have of my dad is, you know, I was fortunate enough to commute to work with him back and forth for the first 2 years of my career, and waking up at 5 a.m. and just sitting in the car together, whether we were sitting in silence or listening to Bloomberg radio and just talking about the day, talking about challenges we faced. And during Christmas season, we would listen to Christmas radio and play a game of guessing who the song was by every single day. The second Thanksgiving hit, we'd say, oh, this song's by who this person is. And so just like playing stupid games like that is like a core memory that I have of my dad. And just like, I can't say enough great things about him. I think maybe a few other people that I look up to and admire in my life is one is my friend Brian. Brian is a friend that I met through my fraternity. He's actually our executive director of the fraternity, so he oversees everything on a day-to-day basis of how all the chapters are operating throughout the country. And he is such a powerful person. He and I think a lot of what I am today, I thank for Brian. And Brian is by no means a physical specimen. I know he probably admit it too, but he always pushes himself to do these crazy things. He asked me first to do a 21-kilometer Spartan beast race in Killington, Vermont, like almost a year and a half ago. And I'm like, wait a minute, Brian, you can't do a half marathon. And then you can't do a half marathon up 8,000 feet of elevation. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And you're going to do it with me. And so on 2 weeks' notice, I signed up to do it with Brian. And we crushed that race. Not crushed it. We finished it barely in 10 hours, but we did it together. And then he invited me to come down this past January to do the Disney half marathon. And, a few family things happened. And so he couldn't do the Disney half marathon. So he goes, you know what? I'm just going to change my bib and do it the Disney full marathon. Like, Brian, you can't do the Disney full marathon. And the guy did it. And he is so wise. He's so energizing with his energy and kind of his encouragement. And I think what he does really, really well from a leadership perspective is he really excels at enabling others to act. That's a core leadership style that he has, whether it's, empowering me to do things and, following up on me on my career growth and my career trajectory and the things that I've been doing. And then too, from like a physical perspective as well, he's always checking in and he's always telling people how amazing they are, whether it's their communication styles, their leadership styles, just anything they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's something I try to emulate a lot, communicating to people and what, I see as really positive pieces of their attributes and so on. And so like those are definitely two people I look up to every single day.
That's awesome. And I'd be curious to hear how your relationship with those people changed when your relationship with yourself changed.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think my relationship with myself really kind of changed over the past like 2, 3 years. And probably I might have the same kind of redemption arc of like a guy going through a breakup and then focusing more on himself and and all this stuff, right? Um, but by loving myself, it gets back to that point of too. Once you find so much love for yourself and it becomes overflowing, you want to share that love with others, whether it's me doing all these crazy things with Brian and the Spartan races and the marathons or so on, or me just having better experiences and conversations with my dad and being a little bit more open about what we talk about and so on. I think, you know, what you get to a point where you love yourself and you just want to share that all with other people and the people around you. And I feel like that's probably maybe the biggest piece of all that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love that. I love hearing that. I think too, like it's such a unique and special relationship, especially when it could be with family, and that's
Yeah,
someone like you look up to. That's awesome.
absolutely.
And I definitely want to hit on what you did in October. If you kind
Yeah.
of want to just give a synopsis of that.
Yeah, really, really happy to. And maybe a recurring theme throughout this call is, the importance of my fraternity. But I think maybe a more important theme is, the importance of a community and something you could give back to and something that you can center yourself around that follows, with your same core values. And for me, that's been fraternity, but for other people, that might be some nonprofits or just friend groups that they hang out with. But that's just kind of been my journey. And so our organization was founded in October of 1847. So this past October, I was the like lead fundraiser for our annual fundraising campaign. And as part of that, I committed to running 18.47 kilometers every single day of October to raise money for our organization, but also promote our values of every single day improvement. And so, as part of that, I was fortunate to run with people like Vin and our other friend Dan. And I was fortunate enough to run with other brothers in my fraternity, but also people outside the organization and talk to them about, the journey that I've had, whether that we've been kind of talking about now, but also, what improvement looks like to them. And I think, Vin, when we were on the run together, you were talking about, just giving back to other people and improvement to other people is something like mindfulness. And while I was running 11 and a half miles every single day of October to, improve myself, I also wanted to show the fact that, this isn't necessarily a normal thing that anyone else needs to do. But, improvement could look like, just taking a walk around the block or something simple like changing to Diet Coke from regular Coke, even though there's probably some arguments about which one's better for you or not. But everyone, every single day, should try to look for some ways to improve themselves, as small as minute as possible. And there was a quote from Robin Sharma in the 5 a.m. Club. It's small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements, when done consistently over time, yield staggering results. And whether that's, doing like if you add 1 pound to your squat every single day, like over the course of 365 days, that's 365 pounds you're adding to your squat, and that's huge. And on a one day by day basis, it doesn't seem significant, but at the end of it, it's huge. Whether that's, networking with people. If you talk to one new person a day, that's 365 people in a year. And that's like, it's just about making that first step, even though you might not know what that first step is, and having the confidence or, the lack thereof, but, being able to do it anyway.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'd be curious, like, was there anything like of unexpected value that kind of came from that challenge and that fundraising that you just weren't expecting at all?
Yeah, I honestly think the physical piece was what shocked me the most. I would love to say that I had this existential like realization about who I was as a person, but I feel like I was pretty much on that journey already. And I'm still on that journey. But I feel like in reality, the craziest thing was that, I was able to do it. Like 11 and a half miles every single day. That's 360 miles I ran in October of 2023, which is an insane number. But I think the reason why I was able to just physically do it is because I thought about it as these small, minute tasks. And eh, each night I didn't go to bed and say, okay, I need to run 11 and a half miles tomorrow. All I said was, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. And then when I wake up, I said, all right, I just got to tie my shoes. And then I just got to go outside, whether it was raining or not. Sometimes just stepping outside was the hardest piece. And then, I start moving my feet and I say, all right, you know what? Let me get to the end of the block. Let me get to the pier over in Hoboken. I know the pier is a mile away. And then once I got a mile away, I said, all right, let me do another lap down the water, and that's another 3 miles and so on. So then just the realization that, 11 and a half miles in a day is just, 1 mile 11 times. It's realistically just 3 laps up and down the water in Hoboken, which I feel like at this point it's just not, it's almost nothing because I'm like, oh, I've been here before. I know it. And so just the ability to chop up any giant task into small items or manageable pieces, I think is a huge critical piece to being able to achieve anything.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I definitely want to hit on if you want to touch on some pieces of your career
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, my career journey has been like a little bit crazy, to be honest. I started my career at an investment bank where I honestly thought I'd never leave. I loved it. I loved working hard. I loved the work ethic. I loved the people that I was surrounded with. But one day I just got a call from a recruiter that said, hey, I got a job at a crypto startup for you. And I knew nothing about it at the time. But, that step in my career was actually something that kind of echoed throughout the rest of my life. And the reason why I took that job at that crypto startup wasn't because I was so interested in it or because I was in love with the crypto space. I think it's because I was like, why not? Let's see what this is about. Like that why not mentality is something I've just been kind of living in each piece of my life, whether that's from a fitness or networking perspective. So I joined this crypto startup. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the environment, the culture, the people, even more so than I was at my first stop. I mentioned earlier bankruptcy, and unfortunately, due to some macro events and some other things going on in the space, the company declared bankruptcy, and I was absolutely crushed. It was the first time, like in my life, I was really questioning things from like a career perspective. Like you're sitting there working every single day, and all of a sudden things like some your best friends are deactivated on Slack, and like people are crying because they don't know what's going on, and you feel a lot of sadness for one, all the people you're working with. You feel a lot of sadness for, all the clients that you unfortunately let down throughout the way, and then you feel, like, I'll be honest, a little bit of anger for the people that you kind of hold responsible for those things. But during that bankruptcy, I had a lot of time to reflect on a lot of things, and it enabled me to kind of take a little bit of time off to what I called like leveling up. And so I was on this still journey, but I even went deeper into it. So I was running more, I was eating better, I was reading like a machine. I fell in love with reading during that time, and I was able to make it to another startup that I thought was doing really well, and I was able to fall in love with that place. But unfortunately, things didn't really work out there. Um, so actually, for the past few months, I've been looking for my next opportunity, which I know I've shared with you, but I'm happy to kind of share it here that I've secured that opportunity at another startup. I've definitely fallen in love with the startup space, specifically in the digital asset space. And as part of that job offer acceptance, I'm also pretty nervous to share that I'll be relocating to London. That's going to be absolutely huge and a huge change in life for me. But I just see it as another journey, another chapter of the journey that I've been on so long. And I try to live my life with like there's a quote where live your life like you're filming a documentary. And it's like, all right, I get to go, I get to live in London, I get to work hard, I get to travel, I get to do all those things and share these experiences with a whole new group of people. And that's what honestly really excites me about all that.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited for you, and I think it is, like you said, it's just the next step, and it could be special, and it could be as special as you make it, and I know you will.
Yeah, and the funny piece of all that was I was talking to my to my will be boss when I start probably next week, and I say, hey, there's one catch if I'm moving to London, and he's like, what's that? And I said, well, I'm going to run the London Marathon in 2025, and you're going to have to donate to my fundraising campaign. And he looks me straight in the eye and he goes, I'll do you one better. He goes, I'll run the London Marathon with you in 2025. And that got me so excited. One, for just the opportunity to work for a guy who is willing to like do something like that. Because like running a marathon's not easy. And who's like, wow, I don't know this kid for a hole in the wall, but he's motivated and he's making me motivated. Being able to work together on that, and like that's just really starting the whole relationship on the complete right foot in my book. And so like that's like something that's just another part of the story. It's like, all right, moving abroad, traveling, working really hard for the startup, and then all of a sudden running the London Marathon. Like it's just kind of like
Yeah,
it's a storybook ending in my
absolutely,
in my mind.
absolutely, man. And the last question I ask everybody is, what keeps you going?
What keeps me going? Honestly, it's hard. I I was sending you a few messages maybe like a few weeks back when I sent you that video of my speech, and it's important to remember who you are. And like you struggle sometimes and you're like you go through life's ups and downs, but it's always important to remember the journey that you've been on and every single thing that's happened to you, whether it's good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. Every single person thing has happened and has brought you to who you are today, and we should be thankful for all that. Life doesn't happen to us; it happens for us. It's a quote from my friend Brian. I'll give him a shout out again. But I truly believe that life is all about how we react to our circumstances and how we're able to persevere. And like it all comes back to doing all that and then using all that as a platform to encourage and motivate others around us. Get that self-love. And once that thing's overflowing, share it with the world. And right now, I'm more than happy to share it with you and all the people that I spend a lot of time with. And that's it.
No, I love that, man. I think that's the perfect place to end it. And I really appreciate your time.
Hey, Vin, I appreciate it. Love everything that you guys are doing. I can't thank you enough for joining me on this journey, and it's been honestly life changing. So thank you.
It's true, man. Likewise.